Chicago. You're listening to Cold Sweat Podcast with your host, Casey Diamond. All right. Hey, welcome back to Cold Sweat Podcast. It's episode 3, and as always, I'm very shocked that I made it another episode. So I'm Casey Diamond, your host, and with me today is Marissa Freeman from Barre Method.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so our first segment is Class I Tried. So I wanted to talk really quickly about a new yoga studio that just opened in Chicago. It's called Ritual Hot Yoga. And it opened about a few weeks ago, so they're still doing a lot of new client specials, so you all should get over there as soon as you can. Even though this will be airing like 3 weeks after we record this, I'm sure they'll still be doing stuff. So I went in there for the first time a few weeks ago, and it's actually the hottest hot yoga I have ever been to. It was like the soul cycle of yoga, though, I would have to say. You can talk.
Okay, cool. I was like, I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's fine. So it's like the soul cycle of hot yoga, meaning that in soul cycle, you do everything by the beat, and that's how you know you're keeping up. And it's the same with this yoga studio. So everything you breathe in for 4 and out for 4, and then you like are listening to them for their cues. So, and they talk in beats of 4 the entire time, which is a skill. I would
imagine that's like a very like a Zen-inducing thing to be like on that routine for an 8 count, you know?
Yeah, and it's also like hip hop music. So
cool.
yeah, so
really cool.
But they talk like and in 2, 3, 4 and out 2, 3, 4 and like warrior 1, 2, 3, 4 legs straight 2, 3, 4 and so that they do that the entire time, and I can only imagine like how much training that must have gone into. But it is a really fun class. However, I wouldn't recommend it if you're a beginner because it is very fast-paced and it is really dark in there. And as somebody who has terrible eyesight, I like couldn't see what was going on around me, which is it's good and it's bad. But they also just like there isn't really anybody demonstrating, so they just like say the names of the poses, and you kind of just have to like know them or be able to follow along. So if you don't know like what dolphin is, you're kind of gonna be like shit out of luck, you know?
Yeah, you're just like making the shape of a dolphin with your body.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Like,
yeah,
like this is right?
Right. That's so funny.
Yeah, overall, if you are not new to yoga, I would definitely recommend trying it because it's definitely not like anything that Chicago has to offer at the moment, so it's cool.
How hot is hot? When you say it's like the hottest one you've ever been to, like explain it.
I'm happy you asked that because it is so hot that even the floors are heated.
Oh my gosh.
So it is just hot. And I was like dripping sweat, and I actually went in there yesterday. They were offering like free private sessions, so I was in there for like 15 minutes and dripping sweat.
Wow.
It is really nice because they offer like free mat, free towels, and free water, which I'm always a fan of when you don't have to pay for the extra stuff that you need to have for class. Like when I have to rent shoes for like cycling or anything, I'm like, really, do you need that $3 when I just spent $30 on a class?
Right.
So I will say that like that was a definite bonus, but it is very hot. So if you can't stand the heat, get out of Ritual Yoga.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm so scared of hot yoga. I think because I know that I have to, I don't know, like hydrate for 6 days ahead of time.
Yeah. And so the first time I ever did hot yoga, it was like a Bikram yoga class, and I was like 16 at the time. So it was just like, that was the only hot yoga really offered, and it was very intense, and it's 90 minutes long, and they were like, you must be drinking water, like, you know, so far ahead of time, and like, I am the worst at drinking water. Like, I am probably like just hours away from dehydration, like at any point. So I really struggled in that class. Also, I was not like prepared well. It was like my first yoga class, like maybe ever, I don't know. And so I just wasn't into it, so I stayed away from hot yoga for a really long time. But I actually like took my first hot yoga class again since then, probably in November, maybe November, maybe August. But it was you just have to find the right studio. So if you don't really have a yoga foundation, I would recommend going to Yoga 6 because it's a good way to like jump in there as a beginner and be able to follow along, because if you take their hot yoga class, the flow is the same. So you can go to any teacher any day and you'll get the same practice, which if you're a beginner, it's nice to build that foundation that way.
Right.
Eventually you'll probably want to try other places, but at least you like know what dolphin is.
Without the sound effects.
Yeah. Or with, you know.
Yeah, never know.
It's your practice. Do what you want. Okay, so let's jump into it. So you are here representing the barre method today.
Yes, I am.
I have to say my first experience ever with barre method was right when I had graduated high school.
Oh, wow, a long time ago.
Yeah, and barre method had just come to St. Louis, and that was my hometown. And it was a big deal for me because I had just finished like my dance career, I would say. And so I was really excited to like jump in and like have a workout that was similar to my dance training, but also like, you know, move on from like my childhood dance career.
Totally.
So I guess for everybody out there, because once I was there and I realized it's not the same as a barre class, I was like confused and like in pain, but also in a really good way.
Yeah.
So if you want to like explain what the barre method is and also how it differentiates from other barre classes, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just first say that like when I wish that I had found barre method right after high school. I played basketball and volleyball. I was always very athletic, and then went to college and realized that I didn't know how to work out because I had only ever played to work out. So I'm a little jealous that you tried it before I did. It started on the West Coast. Burr Leonard is our founder, and she created it with all sorts of other workouts in mind as she was coming to form exactly the barre method. So there are elements of physical therapy, working in a format of exercise that really caters to a safe and strong workout. So how it's different than other barre classes is A, it's been around the longest, but B, instructors are trained with this method all around the country. So I love that I know exactly what to expect when I go into a barre method class, whether it's here or in St. Louis. I've been to one, I'm from Hawaii originally, and I've been to the one there, and I can walk in and know exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
So the constant is that it is the same workout, and the repetition and coming into that studio to know exactly what sort of workout you're going to be getting is what brings people back. Also, our training is so hyper focused on anatomy and safety in the workout that like when we're teaching class, it's part of our job to correct people in a very specific way. So not come down, I mean, of course I would encourage someone to like come deeper into their workout or into the exercise and really like feel the burn, but it would be something like, Casey, lift your heels to be on the balls of your feet and protect your knees, or draw your shoulder blades together and build your posture muscles that way. So it's a very specific feedback that an instructor gives a participant in the class. And I know that that's what makes barre method different across the board.
And I would say based on my experience, because I've tried a lot of the different barre classes that are offered in Chicago, and I think that barre method is like the most like classical barre class of, not like as in like classical ballet, but like classical as in it's like the first. It's what I think of as like what everybody else built off of.
Absolutely.
And I think that it is like a really fun class, but also you're right, every time I go into a studio, and I haven't been to the same barre method studio like since I was 18. Like I keep moving around, and so but every time I know exactly what to expect when I go into class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to talk a lot about like the exercise itself and my journey into barre method and all of that. So I'll just say now that like I'm a very new instructor, and one of the best parts about this instructor training has been reaffirming that it's totally a path to understanding like the strength that one person has isn't like I now know everything about barre method. It's a path to mastering that concept. Like the most senior teachers and me, this newest cohort, everyone always asks what's your feedback? Like what can I be doing better? That's just the culture. And I think that says a lot about the workout, is that there's no like one perfect barre body, because every bar method body is working to be better against itself, you know?
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, since you brought it up, like, how many, because bar is really difficult. It is not easy. And, like, even if you practice it, like, every week or every day, there's still always something to be going on. There's, like, how many people do you see going into class that are like, I've mastered this, I'm done, sort of thing?
It's funny you say that, because one of my hurdles that I've had to approach in this training was, like, I am a certified bar method instructor. There are people who have been taking classes at the bar method for longer than I have, but I have to remember that I'm the instructor. I've done the certification. I know the ins and outs of the workouts, and if I don't know them, I know what questions to ask to try to know them better. So there are certainly clients where I feel like they don't need me. Well, they need me, but they don't need my feedback because they're in perfect form. But they're still working out. It's still an hour-long class. They're fatigued. You know, even the most senior participants who have been, or clients who have been taking 1,000+ classes, everyone can come down one more inch. Everyone can, you know, straighten their back and lift their chin. And so it might not be technique that they get feedback on, but a more senior client would be encouraged to challenge themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that everybody walks away at the end of the hour, like, feeling like they accomplished something. Nobody's like, nobody walks out of there and is like, I didn't have to do that today.
Yeah, totally. And I think I remember that. I mean, even as an instructor, I still sometimes have to convince myself, like, Marissa, get out of bed, go to that 7 a.m. class. I am learning to be better about morning workouts, just because it jumpstarts my day. But I've always done it in the evenings. But even as an instructor, I have to kind of, like, kick myself into gear and say, like, get in there. And I have never walked away from, you're right, like, never walked away from the bar method and thought, what a waste of an hour, or I didn't grow in that hour, because it's mentally and physically challenging, and it's therapy. Like, for me, it's so therapeutic.
I think I totally agree with that about, like, really any workout. It's like, well, I'm spending money on this, but I'm not spending money on therapy. So.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole other podcast on how important I think that therapy is. It's a mental workout. But one of the beauties of teaching and also taking class is that you're so in the zone that you have to escape. And I sometimes will find ways to incorporate that into my class and say, like, you made it here, give yourself this hour, keep your head in the studio, really dig in and feel every muscle build. And, you know, people come in and out of the studio with all sorts of shit. I had a client come up to me a couple days ago, actually. Her mother had just passed away, and she was so grateful to be back in the studio, and that immediately kickstarted my what felt semi-low energy day into, like, oh my gosh, this client needs me right now. I'm going to yell into this mic for an hour and get her into the zone.
There you go. I mean, that's a lot of, like, weight to carry around at some point, but at the same time, you know, I mean, we'll get into this, but I'm sure they talk about that in training potentially. Totally. Yeah. So since we've, like, hinted about it enough, let's get into it and talk about teacher training and the experience, and really, like, how you, first of all, got into bar method, and then why you decided to do the teacher training, and kind of what that process entailed.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, because I'll even take it a step back and stop me at any point if you're like, Marissa, we need to move on.
No, we're fine.
Okay, good. I mentioned this earlier, but I played basketball and volleyball as a kid. I've never been the, like, perfectly fit skinny girl. I mean, my, like, Ashkenazi Jewish background, like, I'm never gonna be a model body. Like, it's just not gonna happen. But I look back at those days and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was so out of shape, and I would give anything to have that body that was, you know, I was doing 2-a-days. We would have basketball from 5 to 7 or whatever, and then 8 to 10 I would have club volleyball, and I was in the awesome shape. So then I went to college and learned what beer was, and
good for you to waiting till college.
Yeah, Mom, if you're listening, I totally waited. But yeah, I really lost sight of my health, and as a result, first of all, gained a bunch of weight, but really fell into a darker mentality because my self-care routine was was non-existent. So actually what happened with Bar Method is I had a series of, I mean, it was like 4 Sundays in a row that I had like big bad news. It was like family stuff, and there was a breakup in there. And I'm a big Seahawks fan, and right in there was the Seahawks losing the Super Bowl, and it was just this emotional cluster.
I'm so sorry.
That's a whole other podcast. But it was just this really, like, I don't know. There's such beauty in hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
And in that process, a friend of mine had tried Bar Method in Seattle. I was living in Seattle at the time, and she recommended that I come, and I was late to my first class, and I don't know why they let me in because I now know that's not allowed, and I now understand why that's not allowed. But I walked in, and I was so overwhelmed and so out of shape and had no idea what. I mean, they were saying muscles that I forgot I had. Like, it was insane. And I was hooked right away, and I jumped into that Seattle studio, which is such an awesome studio, and I really still look up to a lot of those instructors when I think about what kind of instructor I am. So I jumped into a challenge that the Seattle studio did. It was like 20 classes in 30 days, and immediately felt the results. I mean, there were other factors. Endorphins from taking Bar Method classes helped me eat better. I was a happier person. I mean, it's a long list of things. Yeah. I don't think there's one solution to like the self-care routine.
Also another podcast.
So I got started that way, and then I was a year and a half in Seattle taking classes as a club bar member. And then when I moved to Chicago on a whim, I happened to arrange it so that my apartment was on the same street as the Bar Method Lakeview studio.
I see what you're doing now.
You see what I did there? And now I'm moving into what will be my 3rd apartment in Chicago, and the only criteria is enough space to host Shabbat dinner for my friends and less than 10-minute walk to the studio.
There you go.
So I got started at the Chicago studio when I moved here. I think it was like day 2 I was here. I walked in and I was like, hello, I know exactly where to, what to do. And now I know I had no idea what I was doing. But I started there, and then about 6 months later, I started working behind the desk as a side hustle, if you want to call it that. But I'm so passionate about my work at One Table, but I loved having a community outside of the Jewish space so that I could just meet more people and spend that time wisely. And then I was on the desk team for about a year before I auditioned to be an instructor, which leads me to why I decided to be an instructor. So that series of, like 4 shitty Sundays that I mentioned. Sorry if you have to like use the bleep button.
It's okay. I already said it at the beginning.
Okay. So. That series of 4 Sundays really, like I said, was a low point. And, at the time I was on the desk in Chicago, I had been in it for 2 years and realized that it didn't take me 2 years to realize, but I was reflecting on how much Bar Method helped me arguably outside the studio more than it helped me inside the studio. Obviously that hour is building muscle and growing and being in a space where your strength is the goal. But it launched me forward in so many ways. And I think truthfully, like 2016 election and like a series of unfortunate events since then, like really just made me realize that I needed to be doing something. And I'm not going to be at every protest. I'm not going to, be on the megaphone changing the world that way. But if I can help someone in the studio grow the way that I did, then they can go off and do those things. So I feel really strongly about my role as an instructor is very much like a pay it forward. And in our training, we sat down and sort of said like why we want to do this. And the 3 other women that I went through the training with all had similar stories of like, this is something that I can challenge myself to do. I want to help other people see what I've gotten out of it. This is a lifelong identity, I think. So I really wanted to help other people find their own strength.
I just want everybody to know who doesn't know Marissa personally that like highly successful people will think that they have never done enough, and like you do so much. like just talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, because you're involved in so many different organizations and you do so much, and so like I appreciate.
Maybe too much. I need to slow down.
No, I mean it's just like it's so funny the way you're talking. So like everybody there like should see Marissa as a role model because.
Thanks, that's really sweet of you.
So I imagine bar teacher training is like bar boot camp.
Totally.
And I just like, what are you really, I mean, is it every day? Can you talk about like the logistics of it, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. Before I say that, I want to say that like, first of all, thank you for just saying that. But another reason that this bar training was so impactful for me is that I've been involved in the Jewish space like professionally and socially. And that's such a cool way for me to feel like I have a city here and a community here. So going into bar method training where I wasn't like Marissa from one table or known as being a leader, if that's okay to say.
It is.
Okay, you'll
it.
vouch for me. Okay, you'll allow it. It was a truly, truly humbling experience because I was all of a sudden like a freshman again and looking up at some of these instructors and the owners of the studio and our head trainer are people that I look up to as more than just bar method instructors, but the way that they were able to support us and continue to do that is like a lesson again for a lifetime. So the bar method training was very intense and continues to be. I mean, we still have meetings where we, again, it's a path to understanding and mastering the skills. So it started with an audition. They look for a certain energy and character.
Is the audition like teaching a class or
yeah,
what is
so the audition is teaching warm up.
Oh, okay. And you just kind of have to wing it, like.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I had been taking for almost 3 years. I was
go.
on the desk team, so I had an understanding of the teacher life a little bit, and definitely had some mentors along the way. It was mostly like words of encouragement. I would get on the mic as a practice run and like after class or whatever, and a couple instructors were helping me, like, yeah, you sound great or whatever. But the audition was still so scary because it's such a vulnerable thing to be like, hi, I want to do this, and you're the person who gets to say if I do or not. So, all those years of like training for my bat mitzvah and like public speaking and student council, like getting on the mic wasn't super scary, but turning into a leader in a fitness setting is terrifying. I think also for myself as a young woman, I'm constantly comparing myself to other bodies. So for me to walk in and be like, I'm a fitness guru, blah, 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 it just didn't feel natural. So I had to train how to do that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So the audition happened, and then I found out the next week that I had gotten it. And I, called my mom teary. I was like,
aww.
Mom, I'm doing it. This is so cool. And then the real fun started. We got some training materials, and we had to study that. There's a script that goes along with the bar method that we had to start to memorize. And the reason behind that memorization is so that you can lead the class sort of like in the back of your head and really focus in on not perfecting, but giving feedback and like a verbal correction or a hands-on correction. The reason that we memorize is so that my eyes can be doing something else other than trying to remember how to set up a workout or an exercise. It's very much multitasking.
That is like an insane like practice for yourself, and that's like a skill that you could go into any job interview and be like, I know how to do this. And it's a lot harder than it seems, because as a student of the bar method, like I would never even think about that, but I know that every time I go in there, I'll be doing my bars, like she'll be counting, she'll be saying what's going on, and then she'll also be like moving my hips in the right direction or whatever. And so you just don't think about how much work and how much like mental computation goes into that.
Definitely. So that's interesting the way that you just said that, because what you see the instructor doing is up there talking.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is like speaking or explaining the workout and setting up the workout, but my brain is scanning the room and remembering names.
Yes.
That's another thing that makes bar method stand out, is we use names, and mostly well, for a lot of reasons, one of which is that it personalizes the workout, but also like if you're so in, my goal for you, like say Casey at Bar Method, is to feel so in the zone that you're thinking about getting deeper into the muscle. So I almost have to say like, Casey, come down 1 more inch, saying that your name first. You're like, oh, that's me. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Not in trouble, of course, but really to keep people challenged. So, so the training was early morning meetings 3 times a week. So I was meeting in the Lakeview studio at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays for about 6 weeks. And then we had a 4-day intensive with the studio, one of the studio owners, Catherine. And that intensive then led into co-teaching, which was like shadowing and doing hands-on adjustments. And I always have to give the credit to the clients in those like 6 weeks of having 2 instructors' eyes on you, or maybe 1.5 because we weren't fully certified. But having that just means that they're getting double the attention, and the workout is extra hard because they can't get away with, not going fully into it or being in the correct position in the safest position. So, it was 6 weeks of that co-teaching, and we would like get on the mic for a few minutes here and there in every class. And then also there's quizzes and tests along the way and check-ins and feedback. And like I said, it's a very humbling experience. Yeah. In truly like some of the most significant growth I've done since like college has been through that feedback.
So for the people who may be listening that obviously aren't considering like being a teacher but just want to know more about Bar Method in general, what is like the expectation versus reality of a student or of a first-time student who goes into bar class? What are they expecting versus what do they get at the end? How do they feel at the end?
Yeah, I think I can't speak for everyone, but I would say the number there's probably 2 sides to that coin of expectation. One is like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. I'm so scared. In which case it's my job as the instructor to say like, you got this. I'm here for you. I'm going to help you along the way. And this is a team effort. And then the other expectation is that it's a bar class. So it might be dainty, and it's not a dainty exercise.
I've seen like there's always like those classes where it's like bring your boyfriend or whatever, and all these guys come in and they think it's gonna be the easiest class of their lives, and they are just like not on top of it. Like,
not at all. It's small isometric movements, and they're working a layer of muscle that they didn't know existed.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring your boyfriend day is always fun.
Yeah.
I think people expect it to be, I would say, like I said, like 2 sides of that spectrum. One is like it's going to be easy and dainty and like, oh, I did ballet when I was a kid. Yeah. Like, no, this is not ballet.
It won't help you guys. As somebody who did ballet and like hot off of her ballet training went into a Bar Method class, it's not the same.
And then the other side of that is people thinking that it's going to be so exceedingly hard that it's almost unapproachable. And I'll admit that I was that person before I went into the studio. Yeah. And that's not true. Any active person or anyone who is looking to get back into being active or trying to kickstart their system can come take a bar class. And again, the Bar Method specializes in feedback and corrections and adjustments. So it's only intimidating once you, or I could see how it would be intimidating, but once you walk into the studio, it's welcoming and supportive.
And I've noticed that like it does not matter like how old you are, like what gender you are. Like in the studio in St. Louis, there's one like old man that goes there every single day and like is better than I am.
It's a really safe workout.
It's I can imagine.
And for people that are looking to try it out, but maybe they're working on or they're nervous about an injury or whatever, we have so many modifications. My mom recently hurt her hamstring. She'll bounce back. She always does. And I was immediately thinking like, okay, well, what modifications would I give someone who's working with a really hyperextended hamstring? And that's part of the training, is not just learning what the exercise should look like and in the safest way, but understanding that not every body is going to be able to do that thing. How do we adjust and get someone a high quality workout in that moment in a way that's safe for them? Yeah.
So what's the best way to prepare for a bar class if you're a new student, or even if you're not a new student, but you probably haven't been preparing the right way, aka me?
A new student or a coming back student. The best way, I think, first of all, I'm a huge proponent for stretching. I think that's key. And it's one of those things you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like, I'll stretch, and then you never stretch enough.
I know. I always say, like, even after class, I'll be like, oh, I'll go home and, like, roll it out or, like, stretch.
Right.
No. It has never happened.
No, my foam roller is under my bed.
Yeah.
Though I do love it. I love my foam roller.
I know. It's like people who do it all the time are, like, really obsessed with it.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's an addiction.
I know. And it's, like, one thing that I should probably get into.
Yeah, my hips are shot, and that's another reason why I stuck with the bar method, is because I felt like my core and my seat were supporting my hips more. But I always have to come home and roll out, and I never do, and I definitely should. Instructors are people too. So definitely preparing. I think stretching is a really, really important factor. I would also say that half of preparing for a bar method class is mentally preparing for it and being okay with being with hands-on adjustments or verbal adjustments, hearing your name. It's not a call out. It's not like a, Casey, come down lower, you're doing it wrong. It's very much framed in a way to help you not only get into the right position, but understand how to do that, so that the next time you come back, you know how to do it.
And I think one of the things that is hardest to mentally prepare for, at least for me, is to mentally embrace the shake that happens.
Totally.
I cannot get past it, and like that's actually doing, like, from what I've heard, it's like the best, like the most beneficial part of like bar classes.
So that's when your muscle changes. That's what the shaking is your muscle getting stronger. And I see the like embrace the shake shirts and I couldn't agree more. And I always say, like, in the final push of a certain exercise, I'm always like, this is why you're here. Come down one more inch, find your shake. That's where your muscles are changing.
But it's like mentally uncomfortable to like watch your legs move like that.
Yeah, you're like, I work really hard to avoid this jiggle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Not even to like the jiggle. It's just like, I don't like being out of control, I think is part of it too. And that's when like you really are out of control of like your limbs, which is like it is the best part. And I know it's like the thing that you should be like looking to achieve.
Totally. Yeah, embrace the shake. That's my advice for. And also, as you grow in bar method, like on the first day, you might shake right away, and then as you continue to come into the class, you'll notice that you can go deeper and deeper. So you have to work harder and harder to find your shake and really come back to that spot when you're changing.
So what's your favorite bar exercise?
So I have an answer, but I also don't, because I love it. I love it.
All of it.
All of it. But if I had to choose one, it would be fold over.
Okay.
So fold over is a seat exercise, and there are a few variations of it. The variations change the way, like which part of your seat you're working. So it might be your gluteus maximus or your gluteus medius, which is the side of your seat. You're working into your hamstring. But in fold over, you're standing an arm's distance away from the bar, and you draw one leg up to the height of so you hinge forward. You're an upside down T up against the bar. Or no, you're a capital T.
You're a right side up T.
You're a right side up T. You're a capital T. And the success from that exercise comes from your leg being used as you're pulling your own weight. So your leg is extended out and your glute is gripped in a way where you're working against your own resistance. And that is such an intense feeling. You're building your hamstring muscles, but also lifting your gluteus maximus, depending again on the variation. But the benefit from that is what is referred to as the smile line, sort of like where your seat sits on top of your hamstring, and that exercise lifts your seat and also builds up into the top of your glutes. But also another reason I love that exercise is because it's the biggest calorie burner. You're working your standing leg as much as you are your working leg, and then when you switch, your standing leg has just been worked, so it's fatigued, so you're working even more. Like, that's where the shake comes from.
I have to say, in those exercises, I do feel it more in my standing leg than in my working leg.
Totally. Which means you're doing it right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, you should be feeling it in both.
Yeah.
Come to my class and we'll make sure you are.
Okay, cool.
But another reason I love this exercise is actually like kind of emotional.
Mm-hmm.
When I started Bar Method, I mentioned I was out of shape and not connected. I didn't have any mind-body connection. But also I was recovering from a slipped disc in my lower back. So fold over is something that I've only recently been able to do.
Oh.
So part of the reason I love fold over is because it's now an option for me, which is a testament to the strengthening that's had to happen up until this point. Don't get me wrong, it's still really hard, but it's so effective, and it's as much of a calorie burner and a muscle forming exercise that it is. It's also a confidence boost to be able to get through it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So final 2 questions, and we have to move on, unfortunately.
No, all good. I can talk about this all day.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So why is getting in that workout or living a healthy and balanced life important to you?
Yeah, it comes back to that weird period of my life where I knew the difference of being inactive and unhealthy and depressed as a result. I mean, food and exercise are medicine for your body.
Yeah.
And I also ebb and flow. Like, just because I'm an instructor and I'm committed to the Bar Method doesn't mean that I don't have my off days or tired days. But it's important to me because I think it launches my personality and my skill set into like its highest performing level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
I will be tired and sad about something, and having a balanced workout routine helps me center. And I think it's like the best form of self-care.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And so the last question I'll ask you is, if there's one thing you want listeners to take away from this, it's blank.
Whew. I thought you wanted me to like cut down on answers. I think the one thing I would want listeners to take away from this is that you have to really, really commit to it. And like, once you're in the Bar Method studio, it's not something you can do once a week. You're only going to see the results if you're coming 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I know that can be really daunting, but you can do it.
Yeah.
I can be 40 pounds overweight and depressed and sad in Seattle and be here 3 years later as a active person because of Bar Method. It's the time that you put in is exactly, correlated to what you get out of it.
Yeah, and I think to go off of that, like, the one thing that I've learned is, like, going the first day isn't the hardest. It's going the second day.
Absolutely.
When you're already tired and you're already sore and it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I already did it yesterday. Why do I have to do this? And that's when you, like, make the change.
Totally. It goes back to when we were saying, like, I've never walked away feeling like, ugh, I regretted that workout. Exactly. And that's like a meme on Pinterest or whatever, but like, it's so real. It's so real.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our game.
Cool.
So our game today is called Ask Me About. It's a great dinner party game if you ever need one.
Oh, I love dinner parties. So there you go.
So that's where I found this game. So basically, since there are only 2 of us and we don't have a dinner party, unfortunately, I have a bunch of cards in front of us that have like little phrases. So you'll start with like ask me about, and then like complete the phrase, and then we'll both answer the question.
Okay, cool.
So I'm like shuffling them.
Great.
So you can pick the first one.
Okay. Ask me about my ideal type of workout to make a hybrid bar class with. Oh, that's such a good question. I think I would... I just get so much out of
I know, it's like...
I like don't need to think about
I would mix bar with bar.
I would mix bar with bar. Maybe a fun like Zumba hip hop class.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do Zumba and loved it, and that energy was so killer.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I would consider like anything like higher in cardio a little bit with a mix. Like I've taken like boxing bar class before, and
cool.
those are like, it's fun to like be really like moving, and then go to the bar and be like very like still and moving inch up,
keeping your
inch
muscles
down.
guessing too.
Yeah, exactly.
Bar move does some of that like higher cardio work, which is a different type of class that the bar method has. So yeah, Zumba and hip hop.
Okay. So ask me about my favorite song to play in class. Ooh, okay, so actually, there was one song, I went to a bar method class, and she played the song, and it was, that like 80s song, Use Your Love. I just want to use your love. But it was like Katy Perry singing it.
Oh,
and
cool.
I don't know, I was like, well, I've never heard the song, but I really like it. I mean,
remember
I'd heard
that
the
song, or that movie, Smart House?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like 5 bad boys with the power to like that. So that's one of my favorite songs to play in class for this one exercise called back dancing, and I just am like, oh my god, I'm like so nostalgic.
Do you ever do like theme classes?
So a lot of the playlists created are can be to themes, so like 80s hits or 90s movies. One of my favorite classes to take and teach is Justin versus Justin. It's Timberlake versus Bieber, and it's such a good set. I love it. So. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Ask me about my superhero uniform. Ooh. I have this one pair of Lulus that I had one pair of them, and then I went and got several pairs because I wear them constantly. And Lulu's always changing their stuff, so I went immediately back and was like, I need more of these. But it would be those Lulu pants, bar socks, obviously. And actually, this shirt I'm wearing, I love it. It's like flowy and feminine. And if I had to, I would put like a big One Table logo on the front. I don't know.
She's wearing a black flowy shirt. So race her back.
Yeah, that would be my bar method superhero uniform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. My superhero uniform, I mean, definitely Lululemon or Athleta.
I love Athleta.
Athleta, it's like, it feels like butter. Like,
totally.
I just like love those. The salutation pants. So yeah, I just got a pair of those for the first time.
Well, hit me with a promo code. I'll go order them.
When I get one, when I'm big enough, promo code.
Like the blue verified.
Right. And then I actually found I never ever would have worn like any sort of like crop top or just a sports bra to class until actually I started doing like hot yoga regularly. And I think that like it definitely takes a lot of confidence to do it, but like now that I've done it, I feel so confident like going into class and like wearing like a little crop top.
That's awesome. I love that.
So, okay. Ask me about the one thing I don't like this one. Sorry.
Don't ask her about that.
Yeah, don't ask me about it. Oh, okay, this is a good one. Ask me about how many pairs of sticky socks I own.
You go first.
Okay, I definitely own a ton. I used to be doing bar, like, that was my only membership in Chicago, and so I had, like, one for pretty much, like, so I didn't have to do laundry for every day. Right. And then I also ordered a pair of, or like a package on Amazon of like sticky socks. So I have like maybe like 10 pairs, probably more than that. But
so sticky socks, the bar method sticky socks are like the perfect thickness, and I just, they're so comfy. I wear them when I'm not even in class. But they're like my bobby pins, you know, when you're like younger and you just like found bobby pins. I'll be like, I'll like put on a denim jacket and there'll be like a sticky sock in the pocket because I like ran from class to dinner or whatever. And so I don't have a number. I have a drawer of sticky socks, and they're all different colors. And
You're perfect for this podcast because in my promo I talk about how I have like a whole like dresser just for my workout clothes.
Totally,
because it's like it's too much.
And it's not like you can rewear the same thing the next day. Well, depending on the workout.
No, I just can't.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
The best part about bar class. So I obviously can only speak to the bar method, but the best part of the bar method class is the way that the layout of the class encourages strengthening and getting really, really deep into the muscle, and then immediately lengthening. I know a lot of other classes will do like 50 minutes of hardcore go, go, go. And I think being able to sprint like that is admirable. But then doing 10 minutes of stretching, like the strengthening is only possible if there's immediate lengthening. So I think the best part about a bar class, other than having a kick-ass instructor and like feeling yourself, is really the pattern in which the success happens, which is strengthen, lengthen, strengthen, lengthen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably not saying it as eloquently as that, but that is my favorite part of class, is that like after every single workout that you do or every single exercise, you're stretching out exactly what you were just working, which is really beneficial. As somebody who I've said over and over again, I forget to stretch and I don't do it as often as I should. At least I know that like right after that workout, we're going to hit that muscle and we're going to stretch it.
Exactly. In fact, like we have to, as an instructor, I have to give a specific stretch depending on the workout we just did. So it's not just like, okay, stretch your legs. It's stretch your legs this way because that's the muscle you just worked. Yeah.
Okay, so then our last session will be listener questions.
Cool.
We'll do 2.
Great.
Okay, so I did barre classes literally every day for a month and found that I was gaining weight. What's this quote unquote secret to getting that ballerina body, and what am I missing?
Oh, that's such an interesting thing. I definitely feel like there have been times where I've been going frequently and don't necessarily feel like an instant drop. I think there are so many factors that go into weight loss, and I'm not going to pretend to be a nutritionist or anything.
These are also vague because we don't have all the information, so like we don't know what could be happening.
Right. Yeah, like, was it your birthday month and you went out every week? Which is where I am right now. So the key to that ballerina body, first of all, I would push back on that and say, like, a ballerina, I think, is thought of as like a very thin person, but a barre method body is the strongest version of that person's own body. So the secret to finding that, I think, is that consistency I mentioned. You know, we were talking about what might be a preconceived notion, or someone might expect something from barre method and not understand that you need to come frequently to really see the results. And I would say that is the key to finding that strength, is consistency, which is a mental workout as much as it is a physical one. Yeah.
Okay, second question. I'm new to barre and I'm struggling with my flexibility. I can't get my leg up to even do the workouts the same as everybody else. Any tips for modifications or actually improving my flexibility for class?
Awesome question. First of all, the instructors are there to help with that. So there's stall bars in class where people can go to find something that's more appropriate for them. My biggest fear as an instructor is someone like trying to do something that their body isn't capable of yet. Emphasis on yet, because that comes over time. And if they're feeling like they're super inflexible, they can modify and go to a different barre. My other recommendation with that would be take the time to talk to your instructor, walk in an extra 10 minutes early or stay late a few minutes, because it's like a coach, you know, like you wouldn't be on a basketball team and not get feedback from your coach to make yourself better. It's the same thing, and we're here and educated to be able to help people grow in that way. So flexibility would also be staying late to talk to the instructor and make sure that they're stretching the right muscles after that exercise or before. And you and I both need help doing it, but just keep stretching. Like a foam roller is your best friend, and that'll help.
I know.
I mean, like a tight muscle isn't going to grow and build in the same way that a fully stretched, or not fully stretched, but a healthy level of flexibility will. Yeah. I feel it at the end of my day, even like more and more recently. So
oh my gosh, my body is like aging way faster than
I'm all about the standing desk for this reason. My workout after my workout at the barre method after a day of being at my standing desk instead of sitting at my desk is infinitely more efficient.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I don't have a standing desk, and I'm always like, okay, well, I'm sitting for most of my day, but like I'm always active outside of work hours. Right. But like I know it is taking a toll on my body, and it's like, ugh.
You have to remember you're sleeping for, a portion of your day too. So like standing, you gotta add it in. I love it.
At the end of the day, it's like you're still, I mean, like I do the hour classes, or maybe an hour and a half or an hour and 15, but like, that's an hour of your day. And like, what are you doing like the other 23 hours of the day?
I just bought the IKEA standing desk, and I just crank it up, and it's a game changer.
Do you have this at WeWork?
Yeah.
Do you just get to bring it in?
Yeah.
Oh.
I subbed out the desk that was in my office for this one.
Oh, you have an office in there.
Oh, right. Yeah, we have a specific office, not just a hot desk. So, yeah. But, yeah, I would say stretch. Like, just keep at it. Mm-hmm. And make it fun. Like, stretch and listen to a podcast like this one.
Oh, my gosh.
Or watch a show or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you're, going to be watching Netflix anyway, you might as well be on the foam roller.
I know. Oh my gosh, that is so true. I've been trying to like incorporate my Netflix into like other things that could be more productive than Netflix.
Right.
It only goes so far, but
also sometimes being on your couch and only watching TV is exactly what your body needs.
Oh yeah. Well, that's true. I can vouch for that. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Oh my gosh,
this was so fun. I love geeking out about this stuff.
Oh my God, me
thank
too,
you.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So do you want to like share, if you want to share social media, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
when your classes are, where they are, so people know where to find you if they want to ask you more questions or get into a class.
Yeah, I would love that. Well, shameless plug, my Instagram is mfreealoha, which curveball was my AOL instant messenger name when I was in the 6th grade.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I would not make mine my
oh my God,
Instagram.
What was it?
My first ever AIM screen name was Curly Q Fun 10.
Yes.
Because I was 10. And
I'm going to change your name in my phone to that.
Curly Q Fun 10.
So I'm Free Aloha, and I am pretty frequent about like posting that I'm at the studio, or I love sharing my story about bar method and, self-care and stuff.
This conversation could have gone on way longer. I had to cut it short, just so we're clear.
So I'm Free Aloha, and then I teach, there's 4 studios that I teach at in Chicago. It's the Lakeview Bar Method, and then Wicker Park, Gold Coast, and the Loop. I'm only at Wicker Park on once in a blue moon, but we all are eligible to teach at all the studios. So yeah, I teach Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings either in Gold Coast or the Loop, and then Saturday mornings in Lakeview. And if you are like me and you need like a Saturday afternoon manicure, you'll see me at the salon across the street from the Lakeview studio at about 1:30 every other Saturday. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to try and find you. Oh my gosh, what a coincidence.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, and then you can follow me at Cold Sweat Podcast on Instagram. If you have any listener questions, please submit them so I don't have to keep like asking people for questions. And also subscribe, because that's a thing that you should do. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.